Somebody came up to me after a show once and goes, Kevin Israel, is that your real name or is that your stage name? And I was like, yeah, because when I was choosing stage names, I decided to go with the Jewiest name possible. It was Kevin Israel or Hebe Habinowitz, and I went with Kevin Israel. Here's a funny thing, though. The family name wasn't originally Israel. It was originally Israelovich. My great-grandfather got here right before World War II. He was at Ellis Island filling out the little book. He decided to change the name to make it less Jewish. Yeah, so he changed it to Israel. I would imagine right around May of 1948, he looked at the newspaper and was like, shit. They're all gonna know. Trying to Jew down your name by changing it to Israel is like farting and trying to cover up the smell by shitting your pants. I was a lawyer before I started doing this, and which shows, thanks, yeah. That's what they said. Shows no ability to make life decisions whatsoever. My mom was so excited when I became a lawyer. She wanted to tell everyone, my son, the lawyer, she'd work it into conversations everywhere. Then I started doing this, and now when people ask her how I'm doing, she goes, oh, Kevin, he's dead. Right here. But when I made the switch of careers, there was a change in finances. I know you're gonna find that hard to believe. But, and I hit a bit of a rough patch. But my parents were there to take care of me. They were there to help me out, as they always have, and they let me move back in with them. And I was 30 when I moved back in with them. But to make it worse, my parents had just moved into a retirement development. Yeah, so I was that guy. And I was working at night now, so I would just hang out with my mom. I basically became an 80-year-old Jewish woman by proxy. We'd just hang out all day and watch her soap operas and do whatever it is the Golden Girls were doing. But she'd sometimes go to this, they had this clubhouse in this community, and she'd go and do activities. And she'd always come back and she'd tell me the gossip. She'd always find out what was going on in the neighborhood. She'd come back and share it with me. One day she came in and she's like, you know, there's rumors going around about you. And I was like, me? Why are people talking about me? And she goes, well, they're trying to figure out why you had to move home. I was like, what are they saying? And she's like, well, there's two theories. One says you're a recovering drug addict. The other says you had a nervous breakdown. And I was like, holy shit, would you tell them the truth? She's like, what? Tell them you quit practicing law to tell jokes? That would be embarrassing. It was fun though, living at home. It was a good time because we got to reunite in a sort of way. And one time I was food shopping with my mom. We went to the supermarket together, and it was the end of the trip. And I go to the self-checkout lines. You guys do the self-checkout? You do the self-checkout? Yeah, I don't like talking to those animals. I like to just do it and get out. And so we're at the self-checkout, and I'm at the bottom. I'm gonna bag because clearly I'm not paying for this shit. And and I look up front at the register, and there's my mom standing with her credit card out, just like this, looking around. And I was like, Ma, it's a self-checkout line. Just do it yourself. Let's just do it and get out of here. And she's like, that's all right. I'll wait for somebody. And I was like, well, you're gonna be waiting a long time because nobody's coming. So just do it. Let's get out of here. And she goes, I don't work here. I shouldn't have to do this. And I was like, Mom, nobody thinks you work here. Just, they get to hire less people and it cuts down on costs. Just do it and let's get out of here. And she looks me dead in the eyes and goes, this is a terrible time to be alive. And I was like, well, that's a little dramatic. But here's the thing about my mom. My mom has lived through the Great Depression, World War II, the Holocaust, Vietnam, Korea, 9/11. But the self-checkout line, that was where she drew it. That was where, fuck this world, it's too much. My dad's stubborn, though. He's a stubborn man. He's always done things his way. And he's been losing his hearing for about the better part of the past 3 decades. And it's something that we just all ignored and we just put up with because he just wouldn't hear you. And it finally got to the point where my parents' house was just like a game of senior citizen Marco Polo. It was just them screaming out, Sid, Rhoda, Sid, Rhoda. I was like, holy shit, could you two just find each other and end this? Because this is... So my mom finally convinced my dad to get a hearing aid. But my dad would wear it, but not turn it on. So clearly it didn't serve a purpose. So finally I was like, Dad, could you stop being so stubborn and just turn the hearing aid on? And he goes, Kevin, marriage is about compromise. Your mother wanted me to get a hearing aid, and I wanted to never hear her again. And I was like, my dad's not stubborn, he's a genius. I wanted to be a football player when I was a kid. I always wanted to play football. And my mom told me I was too small to play football, like it hurt. But she said, if you want to support the team, you can be in the marching band. Because you'll still be on the same field helping the team. I don't think any football player in the history of football ever went, 4th and 1, coach, I don't know if we should go for it. Hold on. Is that Louie? Fuck it, let's do this. Here's an example of how my mom drove me crazy. When I was a little kid, if we went to a restaurant together, and it was just the two of us, and she had to go to the bathroom, she would get up, and she would hand me her purse, and she would say, hold this, someone might take it. And then she'd walk away. What's that to do to an 8-year-old? I would just sit there clutching the purse, staring at each person going, is that the guy that's gonna take it? Is that the guy that's gonna take it? Is that the guy that's gonna take it? And she'd get back. She'd come back and I felt like I won a prize. I was like, Ma, it's still here. Do you know to this day, if I see a woman walk away from her purse, I have a panic attack? And I just stare at her going, doesn't she know about that guy? Sometimes I'll just stare at it thinking I'm protecting it. Sometimes I want to reach out and grab it and I'll hold it for her. And then I'll think, holy shit, I'm that guy. But it was also, it was weird for my dad when I moved home because he did not know what to do with me. He had no idea. And so he just decided we were going to rekindle this relationship that we never really had to begin with. And he would come up with activities for us to do. He would always come up with cool little stuff for us to do. One day he came in and he's like, hey, Kevin, want to go to lunch and then go to Costco? I guess that's just something we do now, okay. But what it turned out was I misunderstood him. What he said was, hey, Kevin, want to go have lunch at Costco? Yeah. And what came next was us just walking around Costco, stopping at each of those little stations. And I had some pasta, and I had some tuna fish, and I had some raisins. It was just me and 8 70-year-old Jewish men just walking around. It was like the septuagenarian Olympics, us just going around and around. But I came to find out the reason he liked to do this every week was because he would flirt with the little old ladies handing out the other shit. And it was the creepiest thing to see in action. He stopped at one station and she was giving out these little rolls. And he goes, how's it going today, Margaret? And she's like, my buns are hot as always, Sid. And I was like, holy shit. Stopped at another, she was giving out ice cream. He's like, how's it going today, Gertrude? She's like, it's smooth like you, Sid. I was like, this is the worst day of my life. We got to the third station. I was like, Dad, I'm gonna go get the food. He's like, why? I was like, because she's giving out almonds, and I don't wanna know what she's gonna do with your nuts. I dated a girl who had a pit bull. It was a pit bull Jack Russell Terrier mix. Yeah, this thing was like an Italian bodybuilder on crack. He was like, hey, what's going on? What's going on? Pit bull owners, they always say they rescued their dogs, right? Like it was a rescue. I don't think anybody ever rescues a pit bull. I feel like they just show up at your house and are like, poof, I live here now. I live here. I'm gonna go sit on the couch and get something to eat. Thanks for rescuing me, I appreciate it. But you know what, give it up for dog rescuing. That's what you should do, rescue a dog. Rescue a dog. But it's a process, right? I didn't realize. I remembered, because I want to do the dog rescue thing, and I didn't know it was such a process. I remember the pound. Remember going to the pound? You walked in, it was a bunch of cages, a bunch of dogs. You pointed at one, went home with your best friend, no questions asked. Now it's a dog rescue. It's a process. There's an application. There's a background check. There's a waiting period. There's references for a dog. There's references. In the amount of time it's going to take me to get a dog, I could have a Korean baby and an Uzi. But so I decide I'm going to do it. I'm going to do this dog rescue thing. So there I am, 11 o'clock at night, filling out my application. 11 o'clock at night, filling out my application. 7 o'clock the next morning, they're calling my references. I didn't have a chance to tell my references. They were references. My one buddy gets a call. He thinks it's a joke, so he's going to joke back. He goes, Kevin's getting another dog? You know he's eating these things, right? You know who doesn't have a sense of humor? Dog rescue people. We're going to have to come over and... See, I don't like it when people name dogs people names. I used to work with a guy who had a golden retriever named Steve. Except he never told anybody that Steve was a dog. One day he came to work, he's like, dude, I woke up this morning and Steve shit all over the house. I was like, sounds like your roommate has a drinking problem.